At 3:17 inches the morning, deep in the quiet desert of Goldstone, California, something happened that no one working that night expected to see. The air was still, the sky above was clear, and inside the control room, engineers were running routine monitoring tasks. These were the same scans the team had performed thousands of times before: normal procedures, automated checks, background listening to the universe. Nothing unusual, nothing dramatic, just another shift inside one of the most sensitive listening posts on Earth. Then the console lit up. At first it did not look like noise. It was not static. It was not the random hiss of cosmic radiation that constantly fills space. What appeared on the screen had structure. It repeated. It cycled with such mathematical precision that one of the senior engineers reportedly pushed his chair back and said something that instantly changed the atmosphere in the room: "That cannot be natural." The team immediately began checking their equipment. Calibration systems were verified. Everything looked clean. Noise filters were tested. No interference. They cross-referenced the signal against every known cosmic radio source stored in the system's catalog, thousands of documented phenomena collected over decades of astronomy. Pulsars, magnetars, quasars, solar bursts, plasma activity. More than 1,700 pages of recorded radio patterns. None of them matched what the instruments were detecting. And in that quiet moment in the desert, the assumption that the signal must have a natural explanation quietly began to break. The date was the 17th of October 2025. The source of the transmission was not a distant galaxy or a known star. It came from a small point of light moving through our own solar system. That object was designated 3I Atlas, the third confirmed interstellar visitor ever recorded entering our planetary neighborhood from outside the solar system. Even before this signal was detected, the object had already challenged astronomers. Its trajectory did not behave exactly like a typical comet. Measurements suggested small course adjustments that standard comet physics struggled to explain. Its internal density appeared inconsistent with most known asteroids. It also produced jets of gas far from the sun, at distances where frozen rock normally remains inactive. But on that October morning, the situation changed completely. Because the object did something no natural body in the 4-5 billion year history of our solar system has ever been observed doing. It transmitted a signal, and not just any signal. What the instruments recorded was a structured electromagnetic broadcast that unfolded in stages. First came a repeating pattern that cycled with exact timing. Then the intensity of the transmission slowly increased over the next several hours. Finally, the signal narrowed from a broad emission into something far more focused, a directed beam aimed with remarkable precision. Within hours, alerts moved quietly through several major scientific organizations. Internal discussions began. Teams were assembled. Data was examined from multiple facilities. What had initially looked like a strange anomaly was now being treated as a serious scientific problem. At the same time, the event triggered a debate inside the astrophysics community. One of the most well-known scientists studying interstellar objects, Avi Loeb, openly criticized what he described as excessive caution in the scientific response. According to him, the reluctance to discuss the possibility of non-natural explanations reflected something deeper than scientific skepticism. It reflected fear. Then the timeline grew even stranger. 9 days before 3I, Atlas disappeared behind the sun, moving into a position where solar glare would hide it from every telescope on Earth. The object appeared to perform one final action. The transmission pattern changed again, precisely timed to the orbital geometry of the solar system. Almost as if it knew exactly how much time remained before it could no longer be observed. Almost as if the signal had a deadline. To understand why scientists took this event seriously, we need to begin with the technology that detected it in the first place. Because the listening system that captured the signal is not just any telescope network, it is one of the most sensitive communication infrastructures humanity has ever built. And understanding how that system works is the first step toward understanding why the signal from 3I, Atlas, was impossible to ignore. The system that picked up the signal is NASA's Deep Space Network, or DSN, a global array of radio antenna complexes designed to maintain constant communication with spacecraft across the solar system. The network isn't a single telescope. It's 3 massive sites, strategically positioned roughly 120 degrees apart in longitude. Goldstone in California, the Madrid complex in Spain, and the Canberra facility in southeastern Australia. This setup is not accidental. As Earth rotates, at least one of these sites always has an unobstructed line of sight to any target in the sky. The elegance of this geometry ensures uninterrupted observation and precise tracking no matter where a spacecraft or object may appear. The antennas themselves are engineering marvels. They range from 26 meters to the enormous 70-meter DSS 14 dish at Goldstone. These dishes can detect a radio signal so faint that it is equivalent to a standard household light bulb located 16 billion kilometers away. For perspective, Voyager 1, the most distant human-made object, is more than 23 billion kilometers from Earth and communicates through a 23-watt radio transmitter, roughly the same power as a refrigerator light. The DSN receives these signals clearly across the void of space, illustrating a sensitivity almost beyond comprehension. Every incoming signal passes through an automated verification process. The DSN compares the signal against a massive, continuously updated catalog of known sources, spacecraft frequencies, pulsars, quasars, magnetars, solar interference, even terrestrial radio contamination. The process runs in milliseconds, instantly eliminating known signals, so operators can focus on anomalies. On the morning of the 17th of October 2025, the system flagged something extraordinary. The signal from 3I, Atlas, did not match anything in the catalog. No natural astrophysical source, no human-made transmitter, nothing across 1,700 pages of documented cosmic radio phenomena. The signal itself was astonishingly precise. It consisted of electromagnetic pulses repeating every 47 minutes, each lasting exactly 11.3 seconds, measured with absolute consistency. Engineers triple-checked their equipment to confirm there was no measurement error. The pattern wasn't random. It carried nested substructures, patterns within patterns, cycling at smaller intervals of 1.7 seconds and fractions of a second. One engineer described it as resembling Russian nesting dolls, each layer more intricate than the last. This design is known in telecommunications as multiplexing, a method used to transmit multiple independent streams of information simultaneously on a single carrier signal by modulating frequency, phase, or amplitude. It's the foundation of modern communications, satellite transmissions, cellular networks, even deep space transponders. Crucially, multiplexing cannot occur naturally. No astrophysical process creates a nested, multi-layered signal like this. No plasma interaction, no magnetic field fluctuation, no gravitational wave effect. Only an intelligent, engineered transmitter can produce such complexity. The next detail pushed the anomaly into uncharted territory. Over the 5 hours following the initial detection, the signal's power increased by more than 300%. Under ordinary physics, a signal moving away from a receiver weakens. The inverse square law dictates this. Yet 3I, Atlas, was moving outward, not toward Earth, meaning the only explanation for the observed intensification is that the source itself was actively boosting its output, drawing energy internally to amplify the broadcast. The revelation triggered NASA's most secure, classified protocols. Teams of radio astronomers, cryptographers, AI specialists, signal engineers, and military communications experts were convened. Their task: exhaustively eliminate every conceivable natural explanation before escalating the findings. Over 72 hours, the analysis confirmed something astonishing. The probability that the signal was of artificial origin exceeded 99.7%. In particle physics, this surpasses the 3 sigma threshold, the standard for declaring a discovery real rather than statistical noise. This wasn't a curiosity. It was a verified, measurable anomaly with profound implications for humanity. The final, most compelling factor wasn't just precision or power, it was frequency. The transmission was centered at 1.42 GHz. This is no random number. It is the universal hydrogen line, the spin-flip transition of hydrogen atoms, the most abundant element in the cosmos. Any civilization with astronomy capable of detecting radio waves would immediately recognize it. This is where the story moves beyond physics and into communication on a universal scale. What 3I, Atlas transmitted, was deliberately designed to be understood by any technologically advanced species, anywhere, in a language written into the fabric of the universe itself. Do you want me to continue with Part 3, diving into how this frequency alone signals intelligence and the next phase of 3I, Atlas's message? The choice of 1.42 GHz is not accidental. It is, in essence, a cosmic calling card. This is the frequency produced by neutral hydrogen atoms undergoing a quantum spin flip transition, the simplest atom in the universe, made of a single proton orbited by a single electron. When the electron flips its spin relative to the proton, it releases a photon at exactly 1.42 GHz, a wavelength of 21 centimeters. This line is everywhere, saturating the cosmos, tracing galaxies, mapping dark matter, and forming the baseline of radio astronomy. Any species with even a modest understanding of physics and the night sky would recognize it immediately. This is precisely why early SETI initiatives, including Frank Drake's Project Ozma in 1960, targeted the hydrogen line. It is universal. It transcends planetary chemistry, biology, and evolutionary paths. It is the simplest, loudest, and most inescapable frequency any intelligent civilization could use to announce itself. The famous "wow" signal detected in 1977, centered at 1,420 MHz, that signal remains the strongest candidate for an artificial extraterrestrial radio emission ever detected, but it was fleeting, lasting only 72 seconds. 3I. Atlas did far more than flicker briefly in the cosmic void. Its transmission lasted 5 hours, growing stronger over time, with nested layers of structured data embedded like a digital symphony. The 11.3-second pulse, layered with subpatterns at 1.7-second intervals and fractions of a second, resembles nothing in nature. No pulsar, no magnetar, no solar burst, no gravitational anomaly produces this kind of intricate, multi-layered encoding. In engineering terms, it is multiplexed to a degree that rivals or exceeds humanity's most advanced telecommunications systems. It is clear from the data that this is not a byproduct of physics. It is the work of an intelligence that understands both mathematics and communication, deliberately crafting a signal to be recognized and interpreted. 3 days after the initial detection, on October 20th, the signal changed in a way that left scientists stunned. It transformed from a broad broadcast into a sharply focused beam aimed directly at Earth. For 8 minutes and 24 seconds, the previously isotropic, or all-encompassing, signal collapsed into a narrow, coherent direction, like a spotlight locked on a single target. No natural phenomenon can do this. Pulsars sweep broad cones of emission, magnetars radiate in all directions, plasma physics diffuses energy. A stationary, narrow, directed beam requires a phased array, a system of multiple emitters precisely timed to reinforce in one direction while canceling in all others. This is an engineered solution, not a natural one. Independent verification came from the Arecibo Legacy Observatory in Puerto Rico, which confirmed the beam was stable, stationary relative to Earth, not drifting, not sweeping. Engineers across multiple facilities calculated the probability of this alignment occurring by chance and found it effectively zero. It had been deliberately aimed, calculated to coincide with the last window before 3I. Atlas disappeared behind the Sun, entering solar conjunction, a period of 3 weeks, during which it would be invisible to every telescope. It knew when we would lose sight of it. On October 29th, the transmission ended. Every major space agency's monitoring stations displayed a single word across their classified networks: restricted. No public release, no press briefing, no immediate scientific papers, just silence. The world's most decorated astrophysicists understood that this wasn't caution. It was a controlled response, a reflection of the scale of what had been detected. Every eye on Earth that could see and hear this cosmic visitor was now in the dark. And yet, the signal had already spoken volumes. The implications are staggering. 3I. Atlas did not just pass through our solar system. It located us, observed us, and made a calculated effort to ensure its presence and intelligence was unmistakably clear. Every pulse, every nested modulation, every increase in power, every precise aim of its beam conveyed a message. We are being addressed. It is no longer a question of discovery, it is a question of response. Next, we will examine the content of the signal itself, the hidden layers of information that challenge our understanding of physics, mathematics, and communication, and what this could mean for humanity's first confirmed contact with an extraterrestrial intelligence. Do you want me to continue with Part 4, where we dive into the intricate structure of 3I, Atlas's nested signal, and its potential meaning? The moment scientists began analyzing the content of 3I, Atlas's signal, the data revealed a depth that was both bewildering and extraordinary. It wasn't just a steady pulse aimed at Earth, it was a meticulously layered transmission containing multiple independent streams of information nested within a single carrier. Each layer was more intricate than the one containing it, resembling what one engineer aptly described as a cosmic Russian nesting doll of encoded data. This wasn't random noise. It was an architecture of communication, deliberately designed to be intelligible to a mind capable of both abstract mathematics and structured messaging. Analysts recognized immediately that this level of multiplexing embedding different frequency, phase, and amplitude modulations across multiple time scales is the foundation of all modern high-bandwidth communication on Earth. It is used in cellular networks, satellite transmissions, and deep space transponders, but there's one key distinction. Humanity must intentionally design such a system. Nature does not multiplex. No plasma phenomenon, no magnetic field fluctuation, no stellar remnant, no gravitational wave interaction can produce coherent nested signals like this across 3 independent timescales simultaneously. This alone made the signal extraordinary. But it was just the beginning. Over the course of the 5-hour transmission on October 17th, the signal's intensity increased by over 300%. This defied every expectation based on physics. Radio signals in space obey the inverse square law, meaning they weaken as they move away from the receiver. Yet 3I, Atlas, was on a departure trajectory, moving away from Earth. The only physically consistent explanation was that the source itself was amplifying its output. Something inside the object was actively powering up, feeding energy into the transmission, effectively controlling the broadcast with precision no natural object could achieve. NASA immediately convened a classified task force to analyze the event. This wasn't a typical research collaboration. It was a multidisciplinary effort that brought together radio astronomers, cryptographers, artificial intelligence specialists, and engineers from secure military communications programs. Their mission: exhaustively eliminate every possible natural explanation before advancing the data to the next level of evaluation. Over 72 hours, they ran every test, cross-checked every catalog, and applied every analytical framework known to science. The conclusion, when it emerged, was both simple and terrifying. The probability of this signal being artificial exceeded 99.7%. In particle physics terms, this is above the 3 sigma threshold, the level at which a discovery is considered statistically real, not a fluke. And yet, even this rigorous probability doesn't fully capture the scale of the revelation. The frequency of the signal, 1.42 GHz, was itself a deliberate, unmistakable message. Centered on the hydrogen line, it is a frequency that any technologically advanced civilization would recognize immediately anywhere in the universe. It's the cosmic baseline, the fundamental note of the universe, encoded into reality itself. By choosing this frequency, 3I, Atlas was effectively saying, "I understand the laws of physics you understand. I know you are here. I am communicating with intent." 3 days after the first detection, on October 20th, the transmission changed in another unprecedented way. The broad, omnidirectional signal collapsed into a tightly focused, stationary beam aimed directly at Earth. For 8 minutes and 24 seconds, it functioned like a spotlight, actively maintained and calculated to hit our planet with absolute precision. No natural source can perform such a feat. Pulsars sweep broad cones, magnetars flare isotropically, and plasma phenomena scatter. A stationary directed beam requires design, calibration, and active control, hallmarks of intelligence. Every independent observatory confirmed this aim. The beam was not a coincidence. It was precisely timed to occur 9 days before 3I Atlas entered solar conjunction, the 3-week period during which it would be invisible to every telescope. It chose its final observable window deliberately, ensuring its message reached us. And then, on October 29th, it vanished. Every major space agency's monitoring systems displayed the single word "restricted." Silence followed, stretching across the globe, as the world's most prominent astrophysicists came to terms with the extraordinary implications. This was not an accidental encounter. 3I Atlas located us, observed us, and made a calculated decision to communicate in the clearest way possible. The next question, one that shakes the foundations of human understanding, is what the nested signal actually contains. The layers of information, the mathematical structure, the increasing power, and the deliberate targeting suggest a message of unimaginable sophistication. In Part 5, we will explore the hidden content of 3I Atlas's transmission, the encoded patterns, potential instructions, and the extraordinary intelligence required to craft a message designed for a species across interstellar distances. Do you want me to continue with Part 5, where we begin decoding the nested patterns and their possible significance? As the analysis of 3I Atlas's signal progressed, scientists realized they were confronting something unprecedented, a communication not just in complexity, but in intentionality. Every aspect of the signal, from its nested subpatterns to the precise intervals of repetition, suggested that this was not a casual broadcast. It was meticulously engineered, a deliberate message encoded for an intelligent recipient capable of interpreting mathematics, physics, and communication theory. The 11.3-second pulse, with subpatterns repeating every 1.7 seconds and even faster modulations at fractions of a second, resembled what experts likened to a cosmic symphony, harmonically layered at multiple scales. Engineers and signal analysts began applying advanced information theory and cryptography techniques to interpret the structure. The initial discovery was the most obvious. The nested multiplexing, which in human technology requires design, energy management, and precise timing, was layered with redundancy and error-checking protocols. Every repetition of the pulse carried subtle variations in amplitude and phase, suggesting intentional encoding of information. It was as if the signal was self-aware, designed to survive cosmic noise and maintain fidelity over vast interstellar distances. Nature alone could not have produced such sophisticated error correction. The levels of precision implied planning, forethought, and a mind capable of abstract representation. Next came the question of content. Analysts compared the signal against all known forms of natural and human-made transmission, including pulsars, magnetars, quasars, and even experimental Earth-based interstellar broadcasts. Nothing matched. The architecture of the signal demonstrated hierarchical organization, a primary carrier, subcarriers, and tertiary micromodulations, each layer containing more information than the one above it. Some researchers began referring to the pattern as mathematical poetry, an attempt to describe both the elegance and intentionality encoded into a frequency so meticulously chosen it could only have been deliberate. The timing of the signal also became a critical clue. Its repeated pulses maintained a consistent 4-7-minute cycle with 11.3-second bursts and subpatterns aligned perfectly with the Earth's position relative to 3I Atlas. Even more striking was the 5-hour amplification. Over that span, signal strength increased by 300% despite the object moving away from Earth. The only logical explanation, an active power source within the object, was deliberately controlling output, a level of engineering far beyond any natural astrophysical phenomenon. It was a broadcast engineered to capture attention, timed and aimed to ensure detection. Then came the beam. On October 20th, the previously isotropic signal collapsed into a narrow, precisely aimed electromagnetic spotlight. The beam was stationary relative to Earth, actively maintained with incredible accuracy. Every independent observatory confirmed it. No natural process can produce a directional beam without phased arrays, active control, and calculated interference, a feat requiring deliberate design. Here was a transmitter that not only understood physics but had calculated our exact location and observed the solar conjunction schedule, timing the final display to maximize visibility before vanishing. Researchers now faced a deeper question: why? What could motivate a non-human intelligence to reach across interstellar space, select a universally recognizable frequency, the hydrogen line at 1.42 GHz, and transmit a complex, multi-layered, directed message to Earth? Every clue suggested intelligence, yet the content remained enigmatic. Unlike human communications, it did not rely on language, culture, or biology. It relied on mathematics, physics, and universal principles of information. It was a message designed to be interpretable by any civilization that had developed the tools to observe the cosmos and understand fundamental laws. This was the first time humanity had encountered a broadcast that was simultaneously deliberate, 20 degrees away from the direction of the Sunday. That means one of the object's poles is almost facing the Sun during a large portion of its journey through the inner solar system.